Welcome to World Prism. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The US-Canada trade dispute has exploded again, this time with the Trump administration's sweeping tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber in October 2025. These tariffs have sent shockwaves through the industry, affecting not just the companies but also the workers and communities dependent on lumber. The new 10% tariff, stacked atop existing duties, now creates a financial barrier of over 45%, threatening the survival of many Canadian lumber operations. This has led to widespread concern among Canadian workers, who fear for their jobs and livelihoods. Ottawa's response was immediate. A $1 billion aid package, aimed at supporting the affected industries and workers, and a vow to fight the tariffs in every legal forum, from the WTO to USMCA panels. The Canadian government is pulling out all the stops to challenge what it sees as unfair trade practices. The US claims Canada unfairly subsidizes its lumber industry, a charge Canada fiercely denies. This accusation has been a long-standing point of contention between the two nations. The tariffs have reignited fierce debate, pitting American producers against consumers, who are now facing higher prices for homes and other wood products, and Canadian industry against its own government's ability to help. The tension is palpable, as both sides grapple with the economic fallout. The impact is already rippling out sawmill workers in British Columbia, home builders in Florida, and even the broader construction industry are feeling the strain. And furniture shoppers in California all feel the effects. The increased costs are being passed down the supply chain, affecting everyday consumers. This is more than a trade statistic. It's a real-world crisis for families and businesses on both sides of the border. The human element of this trade war cannot be ignored. The line between protecting domestic industry and harming your own economy has never been blurrier. As both nations dig in their heels, the path to resolution remains uncertain. This isn't a new fight. The battle over lumber between the United States and Canada has deep roots, stretching back decades and shaping the economies and communities on both sides of the border. The US-Canada lumber wars stretch back to the 1980s, always circling the same accusation: that Canada's government-owned forests give its producers an unfair edge. These disputes have become a defining feature of North American trade relations, with each new generation inheriting the same old grievances. American producers say low Canadian stumpage fees, what companies pay to harvest trees, undercut US mills, making it nearly impossible for American businesses to compete. Meanwhile, Canada insists its system is fair, transparent, and has repeatedly won support from international trade bodies like the World Trade Organization. 5 major flare-ups have led to cycles of tariffs, legal battles, and temporary agreements, like the 2006 softwood lumber agreement, which expired in 2015. Each time, both countries have tried to find common ground, but the solutions never seem to last. Since then, the US Lumber Coalition has repeatedly pushed for new tariffs, keeping the conflict alive and in the headlines. These moves have sparked protests, press conferences, and heated debates in both countries. Despite Canada's legal victories at international tribunals, the US keeps finding ways to reimpose duties, fueling a cycle of mistrust and frustration. Each new ruling or tariff only deepens the sense of injustice on both sides. Each side sees itself as the aggrieved party. The US claims it's correcting unfair trade, while Canada calls it protectionism and an attack on its way of managing natural resources. For workers and communities, these disputes are personal, affecting jobs and livelihoods. The current 45% tariff is the culmination of 40 years of unresolved tension, with each escalation making compromise harder to reach. The stakes have only grown as the global demand for lumber rises. This dispute is about more than wood. It's about two countries' fundamentally different views on resource management, public versus private ownership, and the role of government in industry. It's a clash of philosophies as much as economics, and with every new tariff, the chance for lasting peace slips further away, leaving the future of North America's lumber industry, and the communities that depend on it, hanging in the balance. The Trump administration's latest tariffs are the harshest yet, invoking Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act, typically reserved for defense materials, to justify a sweeping 10% levy on Canadian lumber. This move marks a dramatic escalation in the ongoing trade dispute between the US and its northern neighbor, signaling a willingness to use national security as a justification for economic measures that reach far beyond traditional defense concerns. For decades, lumber has been a flashpoint in US-Canada relations, but never with stakes quite this high. Combined with existing duties, Canadian lumber now faces over 45% in tariffs, a near blockade for cross-border trade. For Canadian producers, this means a sudden and severe loss of access to their largest export market, threatening jobs and entire communities dependent on the lumber industry. The U.S. Lumber Coalition, led by Andrew Miller, is unapologetic. America first, baby. Their goal? Shrink Canadian market share and boost U.S. mills. For them, these tariffs are a long-awaited victory, a chance to reclaim ground lost to Canadian imports and revive struggling American sawmills. The administration has expanded tariffs to finished wood products, kitchen cabinets, vanities, and furniture, hitting them with up to 50% duties. This broad sweep means not just raw lumber, but a wide range of everyday goods are now caught in the crossfire, impacting businesses and consumers on both sides of the border. Critics call the national security rationale a stretch, arguing it's a cover for economic protectionism. Many trade experts warn that using security as a pretext could set a dangerous precedent, inviting retaliation and undermining global trade rules. The tariffs are designed to force Canadian producers out and give U.S. mills room to grow, even if it means higher prices for American consumers. Already, home builders and renovators are feeling the pinch as lumber costs soar and supply chains tighten. The message from Washington is clear. Protecting American jobs trumps trade harmony, even with a close ally. For the administration, the political payoff of supporting domestic industry outweighs the risks of angering Canada. But the aggressive approach is straining one of the world's largest trading relationships. Tensions are rising, and both governments are under pressure to defend their industries and workers. The stakes have never been higher for both industries. With livelihoods, communities, and billions of dollars on the line, the outcome of this dispute could reshape North American trade for years to come. And the fallout is just beginning, as both sides brace for the next chapter in this high-stakes trade battle. Canada isn't backing down. Prime Minister Mark Carney's government has rolled out a $1.25 billion aid package to keep the lumber industry afloat. The centerpiece, $700 million in loan guarantees to help companies survive the cash crunch caused by U.S. tariffs. Canada is also ramping up efforts to diversify exports, seeking new markets in Asia and Europe to reduce reliance on the U.S. On the legal front, Canada is challenging the tariffs at the WTO and under USMCA dispute panels, hoping to dismantle the tariff wall piece by piece. The strategy is clear: defend the industry at home, attack the tariffs abroad. Canada is signaling it won't be bullied, and it's in for the long haul. The tariffs' toll on Canada's lumber industry is truly devastating, with impacts felt far and wide. In British Columbia, sawmill closures jumped 10% in 2025, gutting communities that have long relied on forestry jobs for generations. Companies like Brink Forest Products have slashed their workforces by 3/4, and exports to the U.S. have plummeted as a result. Nationally, softwood lumber exports to the U.S. dropped over 25% in a single month, a staggering decline. The pain ripples through the entire supply chain, from loggers to truckers to rural towns, leaving no one untouched. For many regions, this isn't just an economic crisis, it's an existential one, threatening their very way of life. The tariffs may protect U.S. mills, but they're squeezing American consumers and builders. The National Association of Home Builders warns that new home prices could jump by nearly $11,000, pricing out buyers and slowing construction. Tariffs on finished wood products mean higher costs for kitchen cabinets, furniture, and renovations, costs that retailers pass on to families. The U.S. lumber industry employs 90,000, but housing, construction, and related sectors employ hundreds of thousands more. Critics say the policy sacrifices a larger industry and millions of consumers for the benefit of a smaller one. The result? Higher prices at the hardware store and in new home listings, fueling a growing backlash. The question remains, who really pays for America First trade policies? The U.S. Lumber Coalition's ultimate goal is self-sufficiency, replacing Canadian imports with American wood. But experts doubt the U.S. can meet its own demand, especially for the grades and species abundant in Canada. Instead, the likely outcome is years of higher prices, supply chain headaches, and legal battles. Canada will lean on government aid and seek new markets, while the U.S. industry tries to ramp up production. The legal fight at the WTO and USMCA could drag on for years, with no guarantee of resolution. A future administration might reverse course, or a new agreement could emerge, but for now, both sides are dug in. The only certainty: businesses and consumers on both sides of the border will keep paying the price.